Before this video ends, your mindset about silence, focus, and personal power is going to change. Right now, the world is louder than it has ever been. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone is reacting. Everyone is explaining themselves, defending their choices, and competing for attention. And in all that noise, most people are exhausted, distracted, and stuck. Not because they lack talent or potential, but because they've been giving their energy away to things that don't matter. But the strongest people move differently. They don't announce their plans. They don't argue with every voice. They don't chase validation. They focus. They build. They stay silent. This message is not about isolating out of fear or cutting people off out of anger. It's about reclaiming your energy, sharpening your direction, and becoming disciplined enough to stop reacting and start creating. It's about learning when to speak, when to listen, and when silence becomes your greatest advantage. If you've ever felt drained from explaining yourself, frustrated by distractions, or held back by opinions that don't align with your vision, this speech is for you. Because once you understand how focus, silence, and self-mastery work together, everything changes. Your confidence grows. Your clarity sharpens. Your progress accelerates. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear isn't motivation that fades tomorrow. It's a mindset shift that can define your entire year. This is about stepping into 2025 with discipline, direction, and quiet power, building the life you want without needing permission, applause, or approval. Energy is one of the most valuable resources you possess, yet it is also one of the easiest to waste when you're not intentional. Every day, your attention, emotions, and mental focus are pulled in countless directions. Social media, opinions, arguments, expectations, and the constant need to respond or explain yourself. When energy is scattered, progress slows, clarity fades, and motivation weakens. Protecting your energy ruthlessly means becoming aware of where it is going and deciding consciously what deserves access to it. Growth does not come from doing more. It comes from directing your limited energy toward what truly matters. When you constantly explain yourself, defend your choices, or try to convince others of your vision, you are spending energy on external validation rather than internal development. Most people who question your path are not walking it themselves, yet their opinions can drain your confidence and momentum if you allow them space in your mind. Every unnecessary conversation, reaction, or emotional response pulls you away from your goals and places your focus on things that do not contribute to your progress. Over time, this creates exhaustion that feels physical, emotional, and mental. Even when you are not producing meaningful results, ruthless energy protection requires discipline and self-respect. Yes, learning to say no without guilt, choosing silence over reaction, and prioritizing actions that compound growth rather than satisfy ego. When you stop engaging in distractions, you create space for clarity, creativity, and consistent action. Your mind becomes sharper, your decisions become cleaner, and your confidence strengthens because you are no longer fragmented by external noise. This level of focus allows you to channel energy into skill building, personal development, and disciplined habits that move your life forward. Protecting energy also deepens emotional stability. When you stop reacting to everything, you regain control over your emotional state. Instead of being pulled into drama, comparison, or unnecessary conflict, you remain grounded and intentional. This emotional regulation is not passive, it is powerful because it preserves your strength for moments that truly matter. Energy invested in growth multiplies, while energy wasted on explanation and defense evaporates. When you treat your energy as sacred, you stop living reactively and start living deliberately. You become selective with your time, guarded with your emotions, and precise with your focus. This shift alone can transform your productivity, mindset, and sense of purpose, because the energy you protect today becomes the momentum that shapes the person you are becoming tomorrow. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness, avoidance, or lack of confidence, but in reality, it is one of the strongest forms of control a person can develop. When you remain silent, you create space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies clarity, awareness, and power. Most people feel compelled to react immediately, to defend themselves, explain their intentions, or respond emotionally to every comment or challenge. This constant reaction keeps them mentally scattered and emotionally drained. Silence, on the other hand, allows you to observe situations clearly without being pulled into unnecessary conflict or distraction. It gives you time to think, assess, and choose responses that align with your long-term goals rather than short-term emotions. Silence builds clarity because it removes noise. External noise comes from opinions, criticism, comparison, and expectations, while internal noise comes from overthinking, self-doubt, and emotional reactivity. When you choose silence, you reduce both. You stop feeding situations that do not deserve your energy and start listening more closely to your own thoughts, instincts, and values. This heightened awareness sharpens decision-making and helps you recognize what truly matters versus what merely demands attention. In silence, patterns become visible, priorities become clearer, and distractions lose their grip. Power grows in silence because it reflects emotional discipline. A person who does not react impulsively demonstrates self-mastery, and self-mastery commands respect, whether spoken or not. When you stay silent instead of reacting, you deny others the ability to control your emotional state. You remain centered while others expend energy trying to provoke, impress, or dominate conversations. This restraint sends a message without words. You are not easily shaken. You are not seeking validation, and you are focused on something bigger than momentary approval. Silence also strengthens confidence. When you stop feeling the need to explain yourself, you begin to trust your choices more deeply. You no longer require agreement to feel secure in your direction. This internal validation creates calm certainty, allowing you to move forward without constantly checking for reassurance. Over time, silence becomes a tool for refinement, helping you filter what deserves your attention and what does not. By practicing silence, you gain control over your emotional energy, sharpen your focus, and operate from intention rather than impulse. It becomes a strategic choice that protects your peace, strengthens your presence, and allows your actions to speak louder than any explanation ever could. Self-focus is often mistaken for selfishness, but in reality, it is the foundation of self-mastery and personal growth. When you focus on yourself, you shift attention away from comparison, external validation, and the constant monitoring of others, and redirect it toward understanding, improving, and refining who you are. Most people remain stuck because they are overly invested in what others are doing, thinking, or achieving, which fragments their energy and weakens their sense of direction. True progress begins when you turn inward and take full responsibility for your habits, mindset, and daily actions. Focusing on yourself creates clarity because it eliminates distraction. Comparison fuels insecurity and impatience, making it easy to underestimate your progress or abandon your path altogether. When you measure your growth against someone else's timeline, you lose sight of your own unique journey. Self-focus allows you to define success on your terms, set goals aligned with your values, and commit to consistent improvement without the pressure of outside expectations. This clarity makes decision-making easier and strengthens discipline because your actions are guided by purpose rather than reaction. Self-mastery emerges when you develop control over your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. This control does not come from avoiding challenges, but from facing them honestly and intentionally. By focusing on your internal world, you become aware of patterns that either support or sabotage your growth. You learn how you respond to stress, failure, and success, and this awareness gives you the power to adjust your behavior instead of repeating the same mistakes. Over time, this process builds resilience, confidence, and emotional intelligence. Focusing on yourself also strengthens consistency, which is the true driver of transformation, instead of being influenced by trends, opinions, or tempo. Rare motivation, you develop routines and habits that support long-term growth. You become less reactive to external noise and more committed to daily progress, even when no one is watching or applauding. This internal accountability creates quiet confidence and steady momentum. When you commit to self-focus, you stop outsourcing responsibility for your life and begin shaping it intentionally. You become the observer, the decision maker, and the builder of your future. This level of self-mastery allows you to move through life with purpose, discipline, and confidence, grounded in who you are becoming rather than distracted by what others are doing. Results are the true measure of progress, and they eliminate the need for explanation, validation, or approval. Words can be persuasive, promises can sound impressive, and intentions can feel meaningful, but none of them carry weight without action. When you focus on execution rather than expression, your life begins to change in visible and undeniable ways. Many people talk about what they are going to do, who they plan to become, or the success they intend to achieve, but talking often creates a false sense of accomplishment that replaces real effort. Consistent action, even when done quietly, produces outcomes that speak far louder than any announcement ever could. When you prioritize results, your energy shifts from seeking recognition to building capability. You stop trying to convince others of your worth and start proving it to yourself through discipline and follow-through. This shift builds self-trust, which is far more valuable than external praise. Each completed task, each habit maintained, and each obstacle overcome reinforces the belief that you are capable and dependable. Over time, this internal confidence becomes unshakable because it is rooted in evidence, not opinion. Silence paired with execution creates momentum. When you are not constantly talking about your plans, you conserve mental energy and reduce the pressure that comes from external expectations. This allows you to work with greater focus and freedom, making mistakes, adjusting strategies, and improving without feeling judged. Progress becomes more enjoyable and sustainable because it is driven by commitment rather than performance. The absence of constant commentary also protects you from doubt planted by others who may not understand or support your goals. Results also reshape perception, both internally and externally. Internally, they shift your identity from someone who hopes to succeed to someone who is actively becoming successful. Externally, they change how others see you without requiring explanation. When progress is visible, people listen differently, trust increases, and opportunities naturally follow. This influence is earned, not demanded, and it grows organically as a byproduct of consistent effort. Living by the principle that results speak louder than words encourages discipline, patience, and humility. It reminds you that real growth happens in the quiet moments of effort when no one is watching. By committing to action over conversation, you allow your life to become the message, demonstrating through progress, consistency, and outcomes what you are truly capable of achieving. Results are the true measure of progress, and they eliminate the need for explanation, validation, or approval. Words can be persuasive, promises can sound impressive, and intentions can feel meaningful, but none of them carry weight without action. When you focus on execution rather than expression, your life begins to change in visible and undeniable ways. Many people talk about what they are going to do, who they plan to become, or the success they intend to achieve, but talking often creates a false sense of accomplishment that replaces real effort. Consistent action, even when done quietly, produces outcomes that speak far louder than any announcement ever could. When you prioritize results, your energy shifts from seeking recognition to building capability. You stop trying to convince others of your worth and start proving it to yourself through discipline and follow-through. This shift builds self-trust, which is far more valuable than external praise. Each completed task, each habit maintained, and each obstacle overcome reinforces the belief that you are capable and dependable. Over time, this internal confidence becomes unshakable because it is rooted in evidence, not opinion. Silence paired with execution creates momentum. When you are not constantly talking about your plans, you conserve mental energy and reduce the pressure that comes from external expectations. This allows you to work with greater focus and freedom, making mistakes, adjusting strategies, and improving without feeling judged. Progress becomes more enjoyable and sustainable because it is driven by commitment rather than performance. The absence of constant commentary also protects you from doubt planted by others who may not understand or support your goals. Results also reshape perception, both internally and externally. Internally, they shift your identity from someone who hopes to succeed to someone who is actively becoming successful. Externally, they change how others see you without requiring explanation. When progress is visible, people listen differently, trust increases, and opportunities naturally follow. This influence is earned, not demanded, and it grows organically as a byproduct of consistent effort. Living by the principle that results speak louder than words encourages discipline, patience, and humility. It reminds you that real growth happens in the quiet moments of effort when no one is watching. By committing to action over conversation, you allow your life to become the message, demonstrating through progress, consistency, and outcomes what you are truly capable of achieving. Detachment from the opinions of others is a critical step toward accelerated growth, Becca. Use external validation often slows decision-making and weakens self-trust. When your sense of worth is tied to approval, praise, or acceptance, every action becomes filtered through fear of judgment. This creates hesitation, overthinking, and inconsistency. Not because you lack ability, but because your focus is divided between progress and perception. Opinions are easy to collect and impossible to satisfy because they are shaped by other people's experiences, insecurities, and limitations, not by your vision or potential. Releasing the need for approval frees mental space and emotional energy that can be redirected toward execution and growth. Most people underestimate how much their behavior is influenced by invisible expectations. They delay starting, avoid risks, or abandon goals simply to avoid criticism or misunderstanding. This dependence on opinion creates a subtle form of control where your direction is shaped by voices that are not invested in your future. Detachment does not mean arrogance or ignoring feedback entirely. It means recognizing the difference between constructive input and noise. When you stop internalizing every opinion, you gain clarity about what truly matters and develop the courage to move forward even when support is absent or delayed. Growth accelerates when confidence becomes internal rather than borrowed. Internal confidence is built through action, reflection, and consistency, not applause. As you detach from opinions, you begin to trust your instincts and decisions more deeply. This trust allows you to act faster, recover quicker from mistakes, and adapt without emotional paralysis. Instead of questioning your worth after every setback, you focus on learning and adjusting, which creates momentum. Emotional independence also strengthens resilience because your motivation no longer rises and falls based on praise or criticism. Detachment from opinions also enhances focus. When you are not constantly monitoring how you are perceived, you can fully immerse yourself in the process of improvement. This deep focus improves performance, creativity, and problem solving, all of which are essential for meaningful progress. You stop performing for others and start building for yourself, which leads to more authentic and sustainable success. By letting go of the need to be understood, liked, or validated, you reclaim ownership of your path. Growth becomes faster, cleaner, and more intentional because your actions are guided by purpose rather than perception, allowing you to move forward with clarity, confidence, and unwavering commitment to who you are becoming. Isolation for growth is not about escaping life, people, or responsibilities. It is about creating intentional distance from noise so realignment and transformation can occur. In a world filled with constant stimulation, opinions, and demands, the mind rarely gets the space it needs to think clearly. Strategic solitude allows you to step back, observe your pate. RNS, reassess your priorities and reconnect with your inner direction. Without this space, it becomes easy to live on autopilot, reacting to circumstances instead of consciously shaping your future. Growth requires periods of withdrawal where reflection replaces reaction and intention replaces impulse. When you intentionally isolate for growth, you create an environment where self-awareness can deepen. Away from external influence, you begin to notice your habits, emotional triggers, strengths, and limitations with honesty. This clarity is difficult to achieve when surrounded by constant input from others. Silence and solitude act as mirrors, revealing what truly matters and what no longer serves your evolution. This process can feel uncomfortable at first because distractions often mask unresolved thoughts and emotions. But that discomfort is a sign of progress, not regression. Isolation for growth also strengthens discipline and independence. When you are alone with your goals, your excuses lose power. There is no audience to impress and no one to blame. This forces accountability and builds internal motivation. You learn to rely on your own standards rather than external encouragement, which creates resilience and consistency. Over time, this self-reliance becomes a core strength, enabling you to stay focused even when support is minimal or challenges arise. It is important to distinguish growth-oriented isolation from avoidance. Avoidance disconnects you from responsibility, while intentional solitude reconnects you with purpose. Growth-focused isolation has direction. It is used to plan, learn, heal, and build. It creates mental clarity that allows you to return to the world stronger, more focused, and more grounded. During this time, you refine skills, sharpen vision, and rebuild confidence without the pressure of constant comparison or judgment. Strategic solitude also enhances emotional regulation. When external noise is reduced, emotional reactions lose intensity and perspective expands. You become less reactive and more thoughtful in how you engage with others and challenges. This emotional stability supports better decision-making and long-term thinking. By choosing isolation as a tool for growth rather than an escape, you create space for intentional transformation, alignment, and preparation for the next level of your life and purpose. As this message comes to a close, remember that real power is quiet, focused, and intentional. When you protect your energy, practice silence with purpose, focus on mastering yourself, detach from opinions, and commit to consistent action, you stop living reactively and start living deliberately. Growth does not require constant explanation or approval. It requires discipline, clarity, and the courage to stay committed even when no one is watching. By choosing focus over distraction and silence over unnecessary noise, you give yourself the space to become stronger, sharper, and more aligned with who you are meant to be. This is your reminder that progress is built in moments of quiet effort, self-reflection, and intentional isolation. Every habit you refine, every boundary you protect, and every distraction you release moves you closer to the life you want. When your actions are aligned with your purpose, results naturally follow, and your silence becomes a statement of confidence rather than absence. I wish you clarity to see what truly matters, discipline to stay focused on your path, and strength to move forward without needing validation. May you use this year to build quietly, grow intentionally, and rise confidently. Thank you for giving your time and attention to this message. Your commitment to self-growth is the first step toward lasting transformation, and I wish you the very best of luck as you step into the strongest version of yourself.